Hi guys, this is GSMDome.com and I'm here with a review of the HUAWEI Pura 80 Pro. We will also play with the Ultra, but this is the one that got to stick with us for a longer time for enlarged and improved tests. So we're dealing here with a phone that comes, as I would say, after the Ultra as a secondary alternative. It's a bit cheaper by a few hundreds of euros, and the price should be at around, let me think about it, 1,000 euros or so compared to the other model, which should be 1,300 or 1,400. There are some price reductions which bring it closer to 900 euros. So we're dealing here with a phone that keeps the 1-inch sensor of the Ultra, but also only has one telephoto camera. It doesn't have those two cool telephoto cameras which are interchangeable on the Ultra. Still a pretty premium phone, and I think that 85% of everything it has to offer is the same as the Ultra. I'm talking about, for example, the battery and the screen, and also the processor. Those are just some examples. So, is it worth to buy the Pro and save a few hundreds of euros, or should you buy the Ultra? We're going to find out in this review. First things first, material. Glass at the front, glass at the back side, and we got aluminum as the frame here. It's quite a beefy phone with a pretty large camera sensor. It's the same triangle with rounded corners, which defines the identity of the Pura series. It started last year. The novelty is that we're gaining IP69 certification compared to the IP68 of the predecessor. It can withstand dust, water, you can sink it up to 2 meters, and even hot jets of water. As a protection, the facade, the screen here, gets a Kunlun Glass second generation protection, just like the Ultra. It's supposed to be more resilient to shocks and scratches. We also have a pre-applied from the factory plastic protection for the very same screen. Now, other things worth mentioning, you should probably also notice that the screen is gently curved towards the sides in a micro quad curved sense. We have here the white version, but you can also get it in black or red. It's glossy for sure. It may draw some fingerprints, but you cannot see them on the white version, and it's slightly slippery because everything is rounded. The back is rounded, the frame is rounded, the front is rounded, so yeah, a bit slippery. You may require a case to increase the grip. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, I'm going to put it to the test right away, and usually HUAWEI delivers pretty solidly when it comes to the panels. Now, the Pura 80 Pro has an OLED LTPO screen, 6.8 inch, and a resolution of 2848 over 1276 pixels. The density is 459 ppi. It shows up to 1 billion colors and has a 120 Hz refresh rate, plus 1440 Hz PWM and HDR Vivid. You're promised up to 3000 nits of brightness in its peak. Okay, so let's see what we achieved. We don't just go by the numbers, we actually do our own tests. We got 1010 lux units. It's clearly a flagship score here, even though we don't reach the peaks of the Realme and the Pixel 9 Pro XL with almost 2000 or over 2000 points. It's still enough for most users. 1000 actually overkill. We're at the level of a Sony Xperia 1 Mark V. We're also surpassing HUAWEI Nova 13 Pro, and just slightly above this one we have the HUAWEI Pura 70 Ultra. The predecessor, to be honest, was a bit higher. The Pura 70 Pro was at around 1749 lux, so that's a drop, I would say, but the average user will not actually feel this drop. What I loved about the experience is, as usual, we got a wide array of colors, we got wide view angles and excellent contrast. Even in the full sunlight, you will never complain about any problems. Okay, that's everything about the screen. Now we go inside the phone, which things get interesting. HUAWEI, just like Apple, they never reveal their processor details, RAM and everything like that, so we have to go guessing. So what we're dealing with here is a Kirin processor, a 9020, a 7nm chip which uses 4 high silicon Taishan big cores and also 3 other high silicon D46 cores and a smaller high silicon core. So it's an octa core setup. The predecessor had a Kirin 9010, also on 7 nanometers. Now, nowadays we're getting 3 nanometers on most phones, so yeah, you know the problems that HUAWEI has with the US administration. The RAM is LPDDR4X, while the rivals are using LPDDR5X, and the storage is 512 gigabytes in the current case. We don't have a micro SD, or as HUAWEI used to offer, a nano memory card slot. Of course, we did a bunch of tests. And to be honest, they're not that impressive, which was to be expected. I'm going to start with the CPU throttling test. As you can see, we lost quite a bit of performance. We lost 71% of performance in the CPU throttling test, so very serious throttling. We're at the 1 million mark points in Antutu 10. It's underwhelming. Nowadays phones tend to go towards 3 million rather than 2 million, so definitely not a very impressive phone when it comes to performance. However, this is artificial and synthetic testing. In day-to-day regular use, I encountered zero lag, zero problems, the games run fine, there's no overheating, and these are the scores in the multi-core and single-core subtest. An average flagship for the past 2 or 3 years reaches around 9K or 10K points in Geekbench 6. Let's also see the 3D mark. We're at the level of a Nothing Phone 3A Pro at best, at the level of the Nubia Flip 2 and Motorola Edge 60 Fusion, so basically mid-range performance going by the benchmarks. But the Huawei optimization is actually so good that the experience is rather fluid in my book. Oh, almost forgot, I did mention temperatures, so let's see those as well. In benchmarks, 41.1 degrees Celsius, a bit higher than I would have liked them to be, and in games 38.9. There's no overheating per se, but temperatures tend to go a bit higher than the average flagship. On the battery front, we're getting a pretty generous battery here. So it has the very same battery as the Pura 80 Ultra. It's a 5170 mAh unit. The Chinese version has a 5700 mAh unit. And to be honest, the predecessor was a bit smaller, 50 mAh. Now, the charging is quite impressive, so actually it's impressive if you're comparing it to the Galaxy S25 Ultra. It's 66 watts via wire. The Ultra had 100 watts, and also the predecessor Pura 70 Pro had 100 watts. I don't understand why Huawei decided to actually drop it. The cool thing is that you get very fast wireless charging. I'm actually talking about 80 watts. Yeah, that's wireless. Pretty cool, right? Now, the video playback time is satisfying in my book. We're getting 27 hours and 45 minutes, 34 spot. It's beating iPhone 15 Pro, Motorola Edge 60 Pro, and quite a few other phones. It's beating the Huawei Pura 70 Ultra, Pixel 9 Pro XL. But it's scored below the Galaxy S24, the Pura 80 Ultra, Honor 200, Xiaomi 15 Ultra, Honor Magic 6 Pro, and a few other high-end phones from the past year. Continuous usage is actually shockingly good. 19 hours and 19 minutes. It's almost top 10 material. It's beating quite a few of the core flagships this year. Actually, I'm looking above it. I don't see any Galaxy S Ultra. We're surpassing the Galaxy S Ultras. We're surpassing the Honor Magic phones. So that's a pretty relevant statement. So almost top 10 material. The charging is actually a bit long, 1 hour and 9 minutes for a full charge. And after 30 minutes, you're at 57%. You should be good enough for, I would say, 1 day of office work with this 57% charge. And now let's talk about the acoustics. Okay, so check this out. We have a speaker here and another set of speakers here at the top side. We're not employing the earpiece this time around. So let's actually listen to a tune. Okay, so plenty of bass and a pretty decent volume. I have to say that the body vibrates quite a bit when listening to the song at maximum volume. No distortion and pleasant voices. I typically say that about most phones, but here I feel that we have an extra kick from the bass. Using a decibel meter, we achieved 83.4 decibels at the top of the phone, while at the bottom 87 decibels. Those are quite decent scores in spite of it being on the 200 spot. Actually, 200 spot is fine considering we tested 600 phones. I see we're surpassing Galaxy S21 Ultra, Huawei Pura 70 Ultra, which is actually not bad. I also see Motorola Edge 40 here being surpassed. S25 Edge, which we've recently tested, not much of a cavity in there. This has a huge, a 10 times bigger acoustic cavity compared to its predecessor. Pura 70 Pro, so that's pretty amazing. We're also surpassing iPhones, Nothing phones, and several other handsets. Now, if you want something that goes past 87, I see Honor Magic 6 and 7 Lite are a bit higher in volume, as well as a maybe, let's see here. I feel that older phones had more volume but less clarity. But yeah, you get the idea. We should be able to surpass most Galaxy S's, except for the Ultra, which goes higher, the S25 Ultra. When it comes to multimedia, it's actually a bit underwhelming in the game Asphalt, 95.6 decibels. I expected more here. We may be surpassing barely the Motorola Edge 50 Fusion. Let's see what other handsets we surpassed. So with this, I would say rather modest score, 95.6, or on the 354th spot, above older phones, but also above the Motorola Edge 50 Neo, OnePlus 13, which is a flagship, and Galaxy A36. However, as you can see, some phones go above 100 decibels. We got the Poco X4, we got the Motorola Edge 30 Ultra, and we even have high-end models like the, let's see, S21 Ultra appears here. Of course, the Asus ROG gaming phones, as usual, score pretty high, and Honor Magic 6 Pro among the big rivals. So there you have it. It opts for extra bass and more clarity instead of volume. And finally, the moment you've been waiting for, the cameras. Basically, here you have the same package as the Ultra minus one of the two telephoto cameras. Okay, so the main sensor is a 50 megapixel one with a size equivalent to 1 inch. It's an ultra lighting sensor and a variable aperture between f1.6 and f4.0. It offers optical image stabilization. It's a red, yellow, yellow-blue sensor with a red pixel, 2 yellow pixels, and a blue pixel. We also have a telephoto camera here. It's a ultra lighting macro camera with f2.1 aperture, optical image stabilization, 40 megapixel resolution, 93 millimeter focal length, PDAF, and a 5 centimeter macro shot, and focuses up to infinity. 4x optical zoom, just so you know, and red, yellow, yellow, blue setup as well. Finally, the third camera that we have here is the ultra wide one, 40 megapixel f2.2 aperture, autofocus, red, yellow, yellow, blue. There's actually a fourth sensor here that people aren't talking about enough. It's similar to the Huawei Mate X6 one. It's a color sensor. Plus, we have the dual tone flash here. And the selfie camera that we have here is a 13 megapixel shooter, much like we've seen before. It has an ultra wide lens and autofocus and 4K capture, which is pretty cool. Now, the capture features that are included here are light painting, documents, story creators, super macro, panorama, stickers, high resolution, multicam, as well as slow-mo, time-lapse, dual view, and aperture. There's also a pro mode with a lot of extras. You can also play around with a bunch of filters, vivid, bright, and original. These are actually color profiles rather than filters. This is the video mode, which also includes a special steady shot mode, which drops the resolution at 2.7K, and also a tracking shot, which should follow people around instead of you moving the phone around. Zoom up to 10x here, the regular steps, and here once again we have all those filters which I mentioned before, plus moving picture, plus the master AI feature, which employs AI to perfectly deliver the scenario. We have portrait features as well, with once again those filters I mentioned before, with beautify, with a bunch of effects. You can create hearts behind your circles, and finally also we have a snapshot here, and we have a night mode, special night capture. It even captures the moon, as you can see, but it feels more like a template. Okay, let's get to the gallery, see what we did with this phone. Okay, so first things first, I'm pretty jealous of my colleague who got to experience the proper zoom qualities of this phone. He was actually there for the launch of the Pura 80 Pro, and he got to zoom in onto skyscraper buildings in Bucharest because the event took place at the 25th floor. So we could basically see the whole town from there. You could start doing these levels of zoom. And to be honest, there aren't much differences when it comes to the zoom of the Pura 80 Pro and Pura 80 Ultra. To be honest, you will not feel the difference, it's 90% the same. We have some excellent focus in food photos, so the macros are really close. I'm not shocked because we actually had a similar experience with the Pura 70 Pro and 70 Ultra. So once again, the zoom checks out, all the details are fine, nothing to complain about. I would say things are just the same as the Ultra, up to about 30x. After 30x, you may get some extra finesse details on the other models. So these are a bunch of workers working on construction on a building, and if you do a crazy zoom like 100x, you should see them, albeit you see here the metal is a bit jumbled up. So the selfies are also excellent, even though you heard about a 13 megapixel camera and expected not much from it. They're actually excellent in focus, quality, hair detail, and the blur. One of the blur effects is actually annoying for me, the one it's a bit swirly, but the other ones are quite cool. And the regular selfies are, I would say, pixel level. I remember that back in the day of the Pura 70, people complain about the over processing. Now it feels a bit contrasty, but in the end, if you get in the proper sun, you'll see all the shades that are required to get a proper selfie. Definitely flagship material. If you go posting this on social media, nobody's going to wonder, is he using a flagship or not? Of course, some fantastic macros and bokehs of flowers and objects in general, so rest assured that you're going to take some artistic shots. Just like the Ultra and just like the predecessor, it's a champion when it comes to doing macros and really close close-ups. So far champion in a few aspects like zoom and close-up. But how are we doing on colors? As you can see for yourself, the rose is the biggest challenge in the summertime. Most of the roses I capture with flagship phones are burned, oversaturated and overexposed. Well, not this phone, which actually handles them a bit better. Also good news about the ultra-wide camera, so if you're capturing an ultra-wide scenario, you will not feel at all neglected by the clarity and the quality of the camera. I actually cannot tell which of the shots are ultra wide and which aren't on account of the quality being so good. Of course, a larger frame when it comes to the ultra wide, obviously, and I'm actually looking for one right now. So this is a video, this is a shot, this is a larger, wider shot. So regular shot is this one at 1x, and this is the ultra wide shot. You can see for yourself that aside from some small deformation here and some lack of detail for the bushes, you're not missing much and the color stays pretty much the same. Another crazy level of zoom, this is a fly, your regular day-to-day fly, and the details are amazing. You're not losing texture. These people were actually far from me on the other side of the pond, and you can see them here properly having a chat and what their expressions are, even with something like 30 or 40x zoom. So all in all, fantastic when it comes to close-ups and zoom, and these have been the daytime shots, nothing to complain about. Colors are fine. It actually borrows a leaf from the Huawei Mate X6 and at the same time makes the color a bit better. Mate X6 make them feel a bit warm. These aren't exaggeratedly warm, if I'm being honest. Okay, so daytime shots, yeah? Now, not low light shots, it was actually a trip in the park. I actually had some fun with it. Here in Bucharest, in the eastern part of town, we have a park called Titan. And this one has some fountains which come with music and they change colors constantly. And they do change colors constantly, quite fast. It was a challenge to capture them and the phone handled it like a champ. To be honest, from the 100 plus photos I've taken, most are taken on the automatic mode, and it was only then that I discovered that I could actually use the night mode. I didn't feel the need for a night mode, but I definitely activated it at some point. These are moving shots, by the way, to properly capture the moment. And of course I captured the moon. But guess what? Up to 10x or 20x, it did the same as my own iPhone. But then this is actually a template taken from the web used instead of the moon. On paper, the camera should deliver such shots, but in reality, I do feel it's a template. Xiaomi's been doing it, Oppo's been doing it, Vivo's been doing it, and Huawei is definitely doing it using that template. Surprisingly good selfies at night, I have to say. Perhaps also helping was the fact that the screen was quite bright and used as a bit of a flash. Okay, and of course, after this corn here, I triggered the night mode, and it doesn't feel overkill as some night mode shots do nowadays. I mean, some phones exaggerate with the brightness achieved at night, which is definitely a big no-no. You can definitely feel those yellow pixels coming in. Things are a bit more yellow, I would say, but the lighting is also yellow, so checks out. The street lights are a bit bigger than I wanted them to be, but not in an exaggerate fashion, so the light sources are kept in check. I actually wanted to see if we can perceive this church here. You can see that the church is very far. I'm going to have to say something like 500 meters, maybe more, and this is what the zoom is doing right now at around 50x, 100x. Things get very contrasty, as I said before, but in the end you can perceive the details of the church better and which people are home and which aren't. And by the way, once again, this is the actual distance that the church was from me. Walking distance about, I would say, 7 minutes or so, but you have to go around it because you cannot cross the park. It's kind of dangerous. Okay, so those have been the low light shots. We also have these. I think this is supposed to be a night mode of sorts. It's a bit too bright for my liking. No, this is the regular shot. This is the night mode. It's too bright for my liking. I don't want them to be crisp and clear. You can actually have to feel a bit of darkness to tell you're in the night. Okay, so we had the daytime and low light shots. Once again, 85% of the experience of the Pura 80 Ultra is here. You're not missing much if you're spending less money on this one. As far as the videos are concerned, you have plenty, and this one probably sums up everything. I mean, come on. The level of detail here is amazing for this fly. And then it flew. Okay, of course, stabilization is also paramount when testing a phone, but also colors. I was actually shocked to not witness overexposure and not witness oversaturation on this handset. No trace of that, even though it's summer. Stabilization was quite okay. Nothing to complain about, even without the special option activated. Of course, the focus was fine. I remember the Pura 80 Ultra taking a bit longer to focus. The Pura 80 Pro also does the same, but feels, I would say, just a tad faster. So fine colors, good details, and of course you can get really close in close-ups. This is a very challenging shot for a focus. And another stabilization test. This time we're ascending and descending stairs in quite fine manner, I might add. So nothing to complain about. Actually, it's a jump. The whole Pura 80 series registered a jump from the P60 and P70 on account of the clarity, exposure, and colors. I feel that have entered the big leagues with these phones, if I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, for a while, Huawei, Xiaomi, Vivo, and other companies were on par with their rivals from Samsung and iPhone, only in photos. The videos were lacking. Well, no longer, at least not on this generation. Okay, and the low light is amazing as well, as you can see here. I filmed while walking, descending stairs. You can see those lights. Definitely amazing. There will be some copyright strike if I actually play the tune. Okay, and of course, plenty of captures of this beautiful attraction. So let's actually see it here. I captured it from the front, from the side. Lights are changing colors. We have huge jets of water. Perfect clarity and details. Now the music once again may trigger some copyright stuff. And of course, we also captured this regular street scenario. Once again, a bit too yellow for my taste. The yellow lighting influences it, but the clarity is fine. When I say fine, I mean, I would say rather foldable fine than regular flagship fine. But if you look at the Z Fold 7 and the Huawei Mate X6, foldable fine is not an insult anymore. Honestly, I feel that the Pura 80 Ultra was a bit better here, having used it for extreme concerts in a rock festival recently. So just slightly better for the video when it comes to the Pura 80 Ultra. Okay, now let's talk about other things. As you know, this phone has limited connectivity. It only has 4G plus because of the whole commercial war between China and USA. So yeah, no 5G modem here basically. Other connectivity options on this handset, well, we have 4G plus, as I said before, Wi-Fi 7 for some reason, which is good news, Bluetooth 5.2, GPS dual band, there's NFC, there's an infrared emitter at the top side. We also have an USB-C 3.1 port at the bottom with OTG and DisplayPort 1.2. In China, there's also satellite messaging. And here we also have a super device feature. You can interconnect with a Huawei laptop, watch, tablet, and so forth. So I actually used the speed test. I actually installed 2 instances of it to get proper, one from GBox and the other one regular. And as you can see for yourself here, we achieved not very impressive 4G results, up to 61.6 megapers in download and 56.2 megapers in upload. That's 4G. And the other iteration of speed test had me doing the whole Wi-Fi thing. We have here 774 megapers in download and 716 megapers upload. Wi-Fi is quite fine, but 4G actually not very impressive, at least in the area I tested it in. So, software-wise, I feel that there's not much novelty compared to the Huawei Mate X6, for example, and also the Pura 70 series. We're running on EMUI 15 on top of Android 15. If I remember correctly, you should see it here. Software version 15, EMUI 15 on top of Android 15, with an uncertain number of years available. So, yeah. I'm talking about the updates here. Not sure how many years of Android updates it will get. As we took the phone out of the box, we got a software update of 609 megabytes, and yeah, of course, bug fixes and all that. So we have the app gallery, we have all the cool games like Delta Force, which should be coming soon with all the pre-orders and that and all the bonuses. I actually played it on other devices and it's a fantastic game, better than Call of Duty. So this one has 200,000 applications, but in case you don't find something here, there are two ways to go about it. So first of all, if you want a Google application, you just type it here. And for example, Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, YouTube, everything. You basically download it from here. And once you install one, you automatically install Micro G. And thanks to Micro G, you can actually log into your Google account. You'll be logged in all the applications from YouTube, from Google Docs, Gmail, and so forth. Everything is logged into your Google services. If you have an application that you don't find here, you can install GBox, which emulates a sandbox with the Google Play Store, where you can find all the required apps. I see we even have ChatGPT here, McDonald's is here, Microsoft Edge, HBO Max. You can see the new season of Peacemaker. Remind me to do that. Actually, I want to see Peacemaker season 2 because it came up. I've heard some people talking about getting Google Gemini to work on this. I have to test that once it's available. Okay, so yeah, the interface is pretty familiar. You have a leftmost today screen that aggregates useful stuff like the weather, the screen time, some pieces of news. If you want customization, you can pinch the screen. You have your wallpaper here, and of course, all of these cool options. You also have your service widgets, which have been looking quite good over the past year or so. Minimalism is the key here. And other customizational transitions and home screen settings. Now, an interesting approach here is related to the fingerprint scanner. So if you're going to go to the biometrics and password area and the fingerprint ID, of course you have to set a password first. You can unlock the device, access a safe, and check it out. So the fingerprint scanner is now embedded in the side, in the power button, instead of it being embedded in the screen, which is odd for a OLED screen. I chose to actually show you this and deleted my old fingerprint in order to show that the process is a bit weird, because you're instructed to slide it here, not just tap it to capture your proper fingerprint. And also because you're going to be sliding it quite a lot, because there are special actions for it. Place and slide, place and slide. Hopefully you're not actually seeing my actual fingerprint to copy it. You're just seeing a generic representation of it. Hopefully. I don't want my fingerprints out there. Okay, so it has been done. I don't want face recognition. So yeah, these are the options which are available here. Unlock, autofill usernames and passwords with it. Smart unlock. Smart unlock should usually imply like a Huawei watch or bracelet or things like that. So if you go through the settings, you're going to find some interesting things. First of all, this is the customization, always on display, magazine content, and all that jazz. Then display with the icon for mode, ebook mode, text size, color mode, and temperature available, of course, here as well. Then you got sounds and vibration, notifications, apps and services, which have a permission manager, app assistant, and app twin. With app twin, you can have two instances of, I would say, WhatsApp, for example, and Facebook Messenger and all that. Battery also has its own performance mode, power saving, and reverse wireless charging, which is once again quite fast. Security, digital balance, and finally Huawei Assistant. These are the AI features of the phone. You got your AI lens, basically scanning barcodes and QR codes, AI voice for seamless interaction. You can do voice wake up with a power button, and also experimental feature like a continuous conversation. You have AI touch. So basically hold two fingers on the screen to read QR codes and extract info from pictures. AI tips. These are basically smart reminders and suggestions to install certain apps. AI search. So suggested apps based on your history, search history, advanced settings, and more. And finally the today view, which I mentioned before. Now, accessibility features are available as well. You can go here and find them: screen reader, text to search, large text, auditory aids and all that. And a senior mode is also available for the elderly. There's a one-handed mode included as well, plus tutorial, and we have shortcuts and gestures. Now we have AI voice, so you can do that. What's the weather like tomorrow?
I expect mostly cloudy weather with showers in Pope.
The voice is a bit more robotic compared to what Siri, Bixby and Gemini are offering right now. And these are some of the smart controls you have here. You can actually touch the fingerprint twice to open a selected app or feature. You can choose among this one. So basically you can associate a lot of tasks to the sensor on the fingerprint scan. We can do this, knock the screen twice with two knuckles. It identified it properly. Wake the screen, answer calls. We also have AI gestures, air scroll, grab shot. I've seen other companies doing this as well. It feels experimental, particularly seeing that I've seen this back in the days of the Galaxy S4 and Nexus 4. There's also the Super Hub. You can drag items onto the Super Hub. It's a bit like a clipboard. You can drag photos and text there if you want to. Smart cover is available, and of course the side window where you get your applications. They can be floating on the screen. You have a notepad here. You can create a new note. You can of course also enlarge your application or minimize it. This is how you enlarge it. This is how you start a note. And you also have some extras here. You have Copilot. Instead of bringing its own AI, you have Copilot from Microsoft here. You can change the tone, chat, search of what you're writing here. You can also draw if you really want to in the note-taking application. You can do handwriting with recognition of the handwriting. So of course, bullets, underline, and all that. So that's basically the experience. We have digital balance, which I mentioned before. This button is called Smart Control. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If I forgot anything, you can definitely check out our Romanian review, or we can have a text review and all that. Now, at the end of the day, it's time for the verdict. HUAWEI Pura 80 Pro. On the Pro side, a very bright and I would say immersive screen. Let's actually use the finger here. Bright and immersive screen is a Pro. Solid build, IP69 certification, another Pro. Generous battery life, even past expectations. Fluid OS, and I would say pretty snappy connectivity, minus the lack of 5G. Balanced stereo speakers. 80%, 85% of the ultra camera is present here, even though you're spending a few hundreds of euros less. Correctly calibrated colors, detailed selfies, and I would say they're quite well focused. Aside from that, well stabilized filming. The zoom can fight any flagship on the market. Macros and close-ups are fantastic. I would say the best I've seen. On the cons side, no charger in the box. The performance is more mid-range than flagship without AI productivity features. Not very clear how many Android updates we're getting. The battery is not as big as the one in China. There is some overexposure which happens at some levels of zoom. I mentioned before that the large zoom shots are contrasty. It uses a template for the capture of the moon. Microphones cannot handle the wind. I've actually noticed that a bunch of times. The low light video capture is not on par with the flagships, and once again the lack of 5G. Now at the end of the day, the things are simple. You don't have 1,400 euros for HUAWEI Pura 80 Ultra. You can spend 1,000 for the Pura 80 Pro. I know there will be price cuts at first and things like that, but I'm talking in general here with the RRP. You're not missing much. Same CPU, same screen, same battery, perhaps even better, and the zoom, you're getting an extra on the Ultra and extra crisp filming at night. That's all. So if you're not a concert goer and you want the full Ultra experience, you're actually getting 85% of it here. That's the conclusion that I've come to. That's it from us. Goodbye.